Hello everyone and welcome to Low Rent Rick Scale Modelling and my build of Thunderbird 2 and Thunderbird 4 from Adventures in Plastic. Before we get going, please consider subscribing to my small channel. It really helps me out, helps the channel grow, and it's completely free. Not many things in this world are completely free, so please do hit that subscribe button. So this will be my first Adventures in Plastic build. I've never used one of these kits before, and on first glance everything looks pretty good. It's not got a lot of parts, but the sprues themselves seem to be in excellent condition, and I can also already tell that the plastic is really strong. It's quite a dense, strong, durable plastic. The model was given to me as a Christmas present by young Edward. Thanks, Edward. It's 1 in 350 scale, so I can see that it comes with the Excavator and Thunderbird 4, and Thunderbird 4 is very tiny, so that one's going to be quite a challenging little build to pull off. And also there's the Excavator in with this model as well, which is around the same sort of size as Thunderbird 4. Good quality plastic, good quality kit, very good instructions, very clear. They suggest using Humbrol paints, or at least they give Humbrol paints as the equivalent match colours. And the decal sheet looks like it's really good quality. So this should be a really good build. So for the first paint, I had to do a little bit of research and go back in time. I was a massive fan of Thunderbirds and pretty much everything that Jerry Anderson did. So I took a quick look at Thunderbird 2, and the paint I've chosen is Vallejo's model colour, which is the intermediate green 70891. And model colour is obviously quite a thick paint, so this is going to get watered down. About 40% paint, so around 55% water, and I'm going to include a few drops of Vallejo's Airbrush Flow Improver. To mix the paint in, I'm using these little dropper bottles I got from Temu. They work out about 20 pence each. A fine investment. Don't know what your thoughts are on Temu. I've had some flack before from mentioning it, but for disposable stuff for painting, absolutely amazing. Adding a bit of detail before the assembly, I'm going to use some Vallejo metallics. I got the Vallejo metallic range. It's 8 paints that have all got metallics in, so there's gold, brass, silver, gunmetal, metallic blue. It's always difficult to know what you have to paint before and what you have to paint after, so I'm going to use the metallic blue and the metallic silver to put the inside of where the pod should sit, to add that bit of detail before the assembly, because I think it'll be right difficult to paint once it's all together. Anyone that watches the channel regularly will know that I use Vallejo's acrylics an awful lot because they're such a fantastic paint, but I found with this metallic range they've really upped the game, and also it's absolutely fantastic for dry brushing. It's a really good paint. I really do urge you to have a go at it. Time to paint up the cockpit too. Now, I don't know what your thoughts on this, please do let me know in the comments, but I really enjoy doing the things like the cockpit or any details that can't be seen or won't be seen when the model's fully built, because it just adds a layer of satisfaction for me. The windows on this model are extremely tiny, so none of this is going to get seen by anyone else, but I know it's there. And also it's a really good place to practice your detail work. So painting up cockpits or internals is something that I try to do a lot. It's the same really when painting pilots, that you can only see the little head popping out through the canopy. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Sometimes I could understand people saying, well, I'm not going to paint it because nobody's going to see it. I totally get on board with that. But I think to hone your craft and get the practice in, that cockpits and pilots are somewhere which you should really try and do, just to get that detail practice in. And there's a level of satisfaction to it too for me, knowing that I've painted it and only I know that it's in there. So here's a close-up look of the cockpit, which I think nobody in history will ever see again. But I know it's there, you know it's there. When it comes to the main assembly, I found the fit to be extremely good, very tight fit, but using the Tamiya extra thin on this type of plastic, it wasn't quite as responsive as some of the styrene you get on some of the Airfix and Revell models. So occasionally I had to substitute for a little bit of contactor, and for some of the structural parts I used some super glue. It's also a good opportunity to get a bit of the dry brushing done before the main assembly. I know some people like to either build completely or paint completely on the sprue. I do a little bit of both, and I judge it from each model that I do. To get the windscreen in was a bit of a reach, but it does fit really well into the recess. Also, there are a few seams that will need sanding back, but I think that's true of most models. The edges are quite sharp and need a little bit of touching up, but as far as how the plastic comes off the sprue, it's pretty good. There's very little that needs to be done to make the nice fit. Decided to add some pre-shading panel lines before the next coat of paint. These panel lines, they do look extremely heavy, but this Vallejo model colour paint, even when watered down extremely thin, still covers very well. So I'll need to do the panel lines quite thick and quite heavy, so they don't get completely washed out by the next coat of paint. As you can see here, this is 1 part paint to 2 parts water, and at only 30% inclusion, the coverage is extremely good and washes those panel lines back really well. As the paint dries, they will become more accented as the black shines back through the paint, but it's something to consider if you're going to put some panel lines on using this paint combination. Once that covering layer has gone on, I'm going to go over it now with a Vallejo Mecha Colour matte varnish. just to make it a bit tough and make sure I don't scratch it while I'm moving it about. The legs on the ramp getting a coat of metallic silver before assembly. The ramp has some articulated moving parts, so not all parts are glued. It has a sliding piece in the centre, and to do the floor of the inside of the pod in silver too, and the two rollers for the bottom of the pod. Assembling up the excavator, it's very tiny. Good bit of practice on some detail work with some black wheels, and for the main body it gives a colour of orange, but looking at the video the excavator is more of a red orange, so I've mixed two types of Vallejo. So I've used the model colour red and the model colour orange, and then watered them back a little bit to get the sort of the shade quite nice. Painting up the tracks in silver, then I'll add a bit of black lining over the top to give some detail. I don't know if this was a design feature of the Tamiya mini paint jars, but it's so handy to blue tack small pieces to the top of them for hand painting. I just find it like either it's a coincidence or it's part of some intelligent design, but I find them so useful to use in this way. Let me know in the comments if you do the same. So this is how the excavator turned out. Quite pleased with it. It doesn't bear very close inspection, but it's a nice little bit, a nice little addition to the kit. I'm going to quickly assemble Thunderbird 4 before painting, and the ramp also, so that can dry and set while I'm getting Thunderbird 4 done. It is very tiny, quite a challenge, especially when your eyes are 50 years old. So the ramp is glued up and articulates quite well, so the two halves glue around the central piece so it can slide in and out. And when the rollers go into the floor of the pod, they're not glued. The top just glues on over the top and traps them in there, so the rollers still work. Managed to pull the tube out of my contactor bottle, so if it happens to you, push it back in and just add a little bit of super glue at the root, and that'll stop it. The legs are going in with super glue as they'll be load bearing. It's quite a tight fit, but do make sure that you get a dry fit first to make sure you've got the level correct, so you don't want them set in at different levels so you end up with a rickety rockety model. It does take a little bit to get them in there as the fit is so well engineered. It's very tight, but just make sure you get those completely level before you put the feet on, otherwise it will rock or one of the legs will be up in the air. Decided to make as good a job as I possibly can of this model, and also of Thunderbird 4 with it being so tiny. So it's getting a base colour of the yellow over the top, and then I'm going to hand paint in some weathering, some of the red stripes, and there are a few small decals to go on here too. I do like the practice of doing these smaller pieces. Blue tack is your friend, but I want this to look like it does in the series itself. And again, it's great practice for your washes and for your detail painting. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So after a year, I'm still not really good at it, but I'm much better than when I first started. So here's a quick close-up shot of Thunderbird 4. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. From a distance it does bear up. When you get a bit close, it's a little bit shoddy, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out for all the effort. There was a good hour and a half worth of work went into that. No real issues with the decals except the ones on the rear engines, which are a little bit large and are prone to wrinkling, but I've managed to get them on okay. The final touch-ups, a little bit here and there, get the decals on, and there we go, the finished model. I'm extremely pleased with this model. Some people think it's very expensive for what it is. I think it's fantastic. Really enjoyed building it, and a real trip down memory lane for those of you that enjoyed Thunderbirds and the whole Jerry Anderson thing. I think I'm going to move on and try and build the whole set. So they found a customer in me. Adventure in Plastic, absolutely fantastic kit. Thank you so much for joining me of my first video of the new year. An extremely fun build and a good place to start. Please do give it a go, and I'll see if I can get hold of the rest and get them built soon enough. Thank you again for joining me. Please join me for the rest of my videos through the year. It's been a great year for my channel. 7,000 and something subscribers so far. Please check out Scale Modelling for Everyone on Facebook. That's my page. We've got about 550 members so far. We'd love to see you there, and we'd love to see your work. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.